And we are live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 75 of Global Citizens. My name is Calvin. I am the show's host, and I'm also its creator. So, first off, Happy New Year, everyone. Welcome to 2021. Hope every one of you has had a good start. If you haven't, please don't feel too down about it. It's because, hey, we are not going on a sprint. We are living the marathon of our lives, right? So yeah, as part of 2021, of course, I am looking forward to restarting my new shows, my new episode, and well, quite amazing. It's 75 now, which in Singapore, if it means you are doing your exam, it means you got an A1, which is you are the top score. So good job for me. All right.
Perfect.
Without further ado, I will actually introduce my guest for today. So his name is Mr. Jamey Lewis. Jamey is a collaborative leader and life coach certified with the International Coaching Federation. He supports TCK and international professionals to act boldly from a place of wholeheartedness rooted in belonging and purpose, and he has a master's degree and a doctorate in intercultural studies. So today, Jamie will be telling us about how to support TCKs to live wholeheartedly and boldly. And without further ado, I'll pass the platform back to Jamie. So, Jamie, how are you, my friend?
I'm great. Thank you so much. I feel very honored to be your first guest for this new year, and it's exciting to be here. Thank you. I appreciate it so much. And we share, of course, in common that, yeah, I was born and reared in Indonesia, and so I miss being there. I wish I could visit, but I'm stuck over here, and you're stuck over there, Calvin. so
Uh,
yeah.
Funny enough, I think you know about Indonesia a lot more than me. Okay.
Yeah, no, I was born and reared there, as I said, and I still have family there. My mother, who is almost 94, lives in Bali. I have a brother who lives there as well, married to an Indonesian. So I have roots in that country, and so appreciate being able to be on your show today, Calvin. Thank you.
You're very, very welcome. And regards and kudos to Mrs. Lewis and your brother, too. So, yeah.
Okay, great.
All right. So yeah, customary for a TCK. I'm so sorry. The first question is not something that most of us will definitely like to hear, like to be asked, I guess.
Yes, yes.
But yeah, I apologize. But this is customary on the show. So first off is what is your definition of home? And yeah, and before you answer that, there's a giant but to it. Yeah, because a lot of people will have the spiritual answer of usually with their friends and families around. So I will give you a little bit of a challenge to ask which is it geographically. So that's gonna be a little bit of a challenge, but yeah, I mean there's nothing wrong with the friends and family, but guys, it's the exact same for everyone. So let's try to make it a little bit challenging for this time.
Yeah, that's a good question. Of course, geographically, I live currently in California, and I am engaged in supportive relationships here. So, um, but I will fall more towards the relationship side of things in defining home, Calvin. And for me, I think, especially, well, you know, I'm a little bit older than you are, right, Calvin? So I've walked a little bit more of the life journey.
Yeah.
And one of the challenges for TCKs is um, relationships are important, but relationships, because of their mobile lifestyle, and there's a lot of because of mobility and also the transitory nature of they may be in an international school and then or living for a season in a certain country, and then those friends that are there for a season, they move on. So it's hard for TCKs, but I would say that home is where your heart is. And by that, I mean learning to find out what's important and significant for you and what brings you joy and contentment. And geographical location and vocation, your geographical place where you live, and your vocation, the job that you do, are important. But I think those are secondary to being able to continue to grow into, no matter where you are geographically, you know what the longings of your heart are, and you move towards greater contentment and joy no matter where you are. So that's kind of, sorry, I didn't quite answer your question, and you tried to nail me down to a geographical location. But,
Don't worry, don't worry. I'm just messing with you. But
yeah,
yeah, I get it. I get it. It's not easy to say like a location wise is a home because, I mean, you grow up in Indonesia most of your life, so I think that place is really close in your heart, and I think you left a piece of your spirit or of your soul there, and you definitely always want to look forward to it. Yeah, I know it's a little challenging, but I don't worry. Any kind of answer to me is right because at the end of the day, this is all about you, your story, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. And I would say that it is great to be with other TCKs, because you just feel like, okay, they understand. They've lived in other cultures. They know what it's like to come back to a home culture and not necessarily be understood sometimes, things like that. So there is a sense of closeness, I think, when I'm with other TCKs and others who have lived, professionals that lived overseas for a significant amount of time. So, yeah.
Okay. All right. So yeah, for those of you who just tuned into the show for the very first time, so Global Citizens is an online live stream platform whereby I invited people who has experience of multicultural lifestyles. Primarily, of course, the show advocated TCKs such as Jamie and myself who grew up outside of our passport country, and actually to actually promote multicultural awareness. It's because I don't want people to ask somebody who has grown up in outside of their passport country to say, "Aren't you like supposed to be one of us?" The thing is this: yes, while on the outside they may look like you, there are certain turmoils, there are certain dilemmas that is within them, and their life is not an extended vacation whereby they grow up outside the country and then they would assume that, oh, it must be a fun lifestyle for you. No, it's because they grow up adopting a certain mindset or need to change a certain mindset, a certain perspective whenever they are outside in the society and when they are at home. So it's not an extended vacation, and I want people to have a lot more awareness about it, and I hope people actually understand what is going on with that. All right, so I will pass the platform back to Jamie again. So, what was the experience like, my friend, when you repatriated back to the US? How was it? Because I recall, aside from Indonesia, another one of your home is in Malaysia in your younger years. Then afterwards, you came back to the US again for college. Then after that, you are now living in the US. You are your father, your husband. So
Yeah.
how was the repatriation back?
Yeah, so I went to boarding schools in Indonesia and then in Malaysia. Graduated from high school, came back to the United States, to California, was here for a period of about 10 years. And in that time, I went to college, got married, completed an MA. And then actually, I returned to Indonesia in my adult life and was there for 26 years. So I have experience both as a TCK growing up in Indonesia and then going back and then living as a professional in Indonesia in my adult life. And so 4.5 years ago, moved back to the United States. I don't use the term repatriation, but I understand it, of course. But just moved back here. And how did it go? Well, it was difficult. Yeah. And it's I think a lot of it, Calvin, for me was just season of life, things that were difficult in the season of life, and not necessarily feeling as prepared for certain things as I felt I could have been. But when I was younger, when I came back to the United States for, let's say, 6 months or a year, my parents would come back and be on an assignment here, home assignment for a year. I felt that it was hard. It was hard because I didn't feel like I fit in. And then I realized, that I had judgments in my heart against my own host country. And then, what happens when you do that is, I think it kept me, it pulled me back from going deeper in relationships. And then, of course, when that happens, then you feel like, increases your feeling of like not belonging. They don't understand me. And so it was when was in my probably in my 30s, I began to realize that. And I realized, I don't want to do that. Even if I'm only 3 weeks, 3 months, 6 months in a location, I want to invest my heart in that place, and make relationships, and learn the stories of others. And I love the term reciprocity. Not be like someone who knows it all, but who is willing to say, listen, I want to listen to your story, I want to learn from you, and I want to connect at the level of a common humanity with you. And so mutual reciprocity, reciprocal relationships is what I'm trying to say. Reciprocity, sorry about that, but is important to me. So and that's important now when I coach others, and especially for those who are younger, so that I don't come as someone who knows it all. And coaching really is to draw out and to learn from them. So that's also bridging between generations, which I think is important, not just cultures.
Okay. So earlier with what you mentioned on reciprocity, you are a career coach as a TCK. You help to mentor TCK, right?
Mm-hmm.
So tell us how you actually got started doing it. Like, was it like in the spur of a moment, or maybe it's because of your kind of like, maybe at that time you were thinking of a career change, and then suddenly it's like, okay, let's see what I can do, because I think I've been there before in this kind of situation. Is there any kind of like epiphany moment, or it's just something that you want to consider because you wanted something different and you wanted to find something that could be a lot more meaningful in your life?
I think how I started in this was, just in my previous jobs and roles, I was very relational. And just some of my strengths are in listening, in drawing out, in encouraging and affirming people. And Calvin, I realized too that others affirmed in me these kinds of things, and so I just felt encouraged to go for it. And I attended a training when I was still in Indonesia, an intensive training on coaching, was certified by the international. I wasn't certified yet, but it was a training that teaches you how to be a coach, how to draw out, ask good questions, and draw out from people. So. And then just realizing, this fits with who I am. This fits with my experience. This fits with what I want to see. How I believe that especially young leaders are developed is not by telling them a bunch of information, but by drawing out and helping them discern their own motivations and longings, and then asking them, how can you do that? Who will support you to do that? And then being that supportive presence alongside them over a period of time, so that they gain confidence, they grow courage, as my tagline, grow courage, gain clarity, and keep moving. So that's kind of how I got started, and I really enjoy being able to come alongside others and help them in that way.
All right. Okay. So I kind of want to ask a little bit about the portfolio of guests of your clients, or maybe you want to use a more nurturing term to that, is your mentees. Yeah. So what are the typical age range though, and what kind of issues have you encountered with TCKs actually? Because I've had the fortune of inviting 75, including yourself, and 76 indirectly, because 77. It's because several of them are actually two people who are part of the show itself. So with regards to this, a lot of issues that TCKs could be presented is rooted in the lack of identity, in their lack of anchor in what was supposed to be their passport country. Some of them, in fact, have passport countries since they are dual citizenships. And as a result, they kind of even feel that they need to develop a certain affiliation to one or certain attachment to one. So what do you feel has been an issues that you have commonly seen there?
Yeah. Oh, you hit upon one that's important, and that is, grappling to sense their own, with their own sense of personal and cultural identity. A big one would be belonging. And your very first question, where is home? Where is home? Where do I belong? Calvin, I grappled with that. even later in life, especially when crises happen, when crisis moments happen, stuff that you think has been settled, it all bubbles up. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, who am I? Where do I belong? I think also what I shared about having judgments against my own passport culture, like they don't get it, they don't understand me. That's not necessarily true, and that kept me from going deeper in relationships. So I see that as well. I think TCKs who maybe hold back and they feel like these people don't quite understand the richness of what I've experienced, what I've gone through, and that may keep them from developing relationships. So that's another issue that comes up in coaching. And then I think, yeah, I've also coached ones that are not TCKs, but maybe they're going to be overseas. They're going to be there as international professionals. So just sharing a little bit about what I experienced, the importance of cultural humility, reciprocity in relationships, being a learner, having the posture of a learner, and then the importance of story. Sharing your own story and then drawing out the stories of others. So those are some things that have come up in the ones that I've coached. Yeah.
Okay. Earlier you mentioned on the word story, yeah. So in this show, there's a term called TC Quest, whereby it's basically your own experience, which countries you grow up as a TCK. So why I actually want to ask this is that I want to ask is that how do you feel each of your background, whether it's in Indonesia or whether it's in Malaysia, how do you feel it has shaped you to be who you are, and how do you feel though that this has been beneficial for you, maybe in both your personal life or even in your career?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great question. And my growing up in Indonesia, um, you know, being able to experience and to see how people do things differently, and then learning some values that you realize when you go back to your passport culture or your home country, and you realize, wow, like for example, here in the United States, we're so strongly individualistic, generally speaking. And then learning like in Indonesia, wow, the value of community, gotong royong,
Yeah.
of helping each other in local in your immediate community. You know each other. You take time. You don't walk quickly. You take time. You just sit and chat, and then also hospitality. Hospitality. So just seeing that lived out. I would also say that when I was in Malaysia, I was in boarding school, and that was very special because I was with fellow TCKs, and we had some crazy fun adventures. So just some of those friendships with fellow TCKs that you just think back, wow, some of those crazy stories. Some you don't want to share with others. Kind of like
I'll let you keep that to yourself. I'll
yeah,
let you keep that to
maybe
yourself.
after some other time, Calvin, you and I can just have just the two of us. And that's a sense like wow. And then food. Oh, the richness of variety of food that you get to eat, and then places that you go. You just being able to travel all over. I will say this too, Calvin. There is something that I have realized in recent years, and that is, we talk now. I've heard more myself, and we talk more about social location. And so some people, I realize I've had the tremendous privilege. I've had the tremendous privilege of excellent education. Going to schools where small class size, teachers who were committed and dedicated, and then being able to go back to the United States, go to college, get my bachelor's, master's, and a doctorate. It's just amazing. And then the resources to be able to travel to so many different places, Kelvin. That's been such a rich privilege. A lot of people don't have that. And being able to meet people from different backgrounds. So I have appreciated more clearly. And then also, when we go back to States, I didn't feel like when I was in the States, like, wow, we're not that wealthy, but guess what? When I would be in, I realized I was connected to family and friends and a network of people who did have resources. who did have resources. So just coming to appreciate more and more the tremendous privilege that I had to be able to experience a global lifestyle, and not think anything about it. Getting on a plane, going to another country. You know, some people, they have never even flown on a plane. You know, of course now in the States that's maybe not so true, but being able to stay there for an extended period and know people there as well. You know, I have friends. So anyway, it was. I've come to appreciate some of those things. What I've appreciated about the United States, I think most of my network of supportive family and friends are here. So that's a significant connection point for me in this country, even while I long for some of the things that I had, in Indonesia and then in Malaysia. So.
All right.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah, it is. It's beautifully answered. Thank you. Yeah. So recently I appeared in Red Ramblings podcast. Shout out to Red. Jamey, how are you, my friend?
Yes.
All right. So one of the thing that I really truly love out of what he says is that well, you need to grow up to be proud of where you are from, where you come from.
Mm-hmm.
But you need to also realize that there are other things around the world that you may not know, and you need to humble yourself down in order to learn from it. So why I actually need to highlight this is because, well, recently we have a very, very unfortunate situation in the United States of America. As I really hope that people are fine there, and I have several contacts there, and I was quite worried about what was going to happen, but thank God all of them got back to me. So that's something that I can at least heave a sigh of relief for.
Yeah.
But moving forward, how do you think the awareness of a global citizen's lifestyle could be more beneficial, not only to a community, but maybe to a country? Because the thing is that I noticed. Well, the thing is this: when I was younger, the U.S. used to be like a dream. It's like the beacon of the world. It's something that we all wish that we all had lived in the U.S. somehow, some way. We all are born in the U.S. Something along that line. But now, when we are looking at it and what is going on there, I'm sorry to say, but that beautiful country, that beautiful image makes it look like a joke for a nation. It is something that is really painful, and I'm not even a citizen of the United States of America. And from the outside, I can look at it as like, oh dear goodness, what is happening? How do you feel though that awareness of global citizens' lifestyle could be much more? I think, in a sense, you can call it. It helps with the progression within the United States, for one.
Yes. Yeah. So what you said about that other podcaster talking about, yeah. So some people have a mistaken concept of this idea of melting pot, where you just all melt together and you lose your distinctives of family and culture. That's not what we're talking about. And I heard this, I think, on Megan Norton's podcast. It's better to talk about a mosaic. Or a tapestry. So the distinctive colors and qualities and characteristics are maintained, and there's a certain pride in that, right? A humble pride. But there's also a commitment, Calvin, to understand and to get to know people, and not just pay lip service. But I think a good question you can ask people is, they say, well, we love those people. Well, have you ever had a meal with that person kind of person that's different like that? Have you ever been in the home of someone like that? And when I ask myself that question about certain ones that I don't know much about their culture, I realize, no, I haven't. But when I do, wow, you visiting in the home of someone and then exchanging stories. That's such an important part of mutuality and reciprocity, swapping stories, as I like to call it, and that will increase. As the Indonesians say, tak kenal maka tak sayang, which translates, help me out, Calvin, but if you don't know someone, if you don't really know them, then you're not going to have compassion for them. right?
Yep.
And so,
Actually, I think you translated a lot better than what I would say.
yeah, and even the Sudanese say Moal Bogo Muntu Wano. Yeah, sorry, that's Sudanese. So the regional language of West Java. But yeah, if you don't get to know them, you just it's just lip service saying, oh yeah, we love and we have compassion, stuff like that. What really helps is when you get to know them and to understand and suspend judgment, seek understanding. That's a really important too part of coaching, is you really say, look, I don't know necessarily the motivations of this person's heart. I'm not going to tell them what to do. I want to suspend judgment. I want to seek understanding. I want to ask good questions and draw out their story. And if we can do that, you said multicultural awareness, if we can promote that, I think that there's going to be a far greater chance for us to say, because it's hard to push away somebody that their stories, and that they've got parents that they're concerned for their well-being, or maybe they've got children, they're wondering how are they going to what kind of education are they going to get. You say, wow, it's hard for you to say they're the bad guy, or they're the ones that we got to keep out or whatever. It's hard to do that when you learn their stories. So yes, definitely, I do think that our opportunity as TCKs, Calvin, it's amazing, and we can help lead the way, or at least if we're not leading the way, we can help. What's the word? What's the best way to say it? We can help just by showing an example of those who know what it means to go and live among, to listen to understand their stories, and then to share those stories. And show that, guess what, that person that lives way over there, that you don't understand their culture, they may look weird, they have the same longings that you do. They want to succeed in life. They want to have their kids do better than they did. They want to honor their parents. They want to be able to give back to their community. All these kinds of things that you and I have too. You know what I mean? So, at any rate, yes, I think we have a tremendous opportunity as TCKs to kind of show how that can be done. And let's do it. Let's rise up and let's do it.
Yeah, earlier you mentioned story. The thing is that a lot of times people will assume because you don't know their story. What this guy is actually a TCK, but the thing is that, well, it's never openly stated, and he is a four-time NBA champion, a Hall of Famer, Mr. Shaquille ONeal. Yes, he's actually a TCK. He grew up in Waldflicken, West Germany. So this is a principle that he actually has taught before, is that people will assume who you are because of what they see, what they hear, and what others tells you of them. But is the best way to get to know somebody is to actually sit down, listen to them, say, hey, how are you? What is it that you do? How do you came up to be this way? So I think this is the thing, is that in a sense, we can act, this kind of multicultural awareness could be educated through an opportunity as just as a sit down. It's as simple as doing what I'm also doing right here. There's nothing fancy about it. I'm in my office. I'm just in a typical attire, and well, there's nothing over the top, nothing fancy. Okay, other than the mic, but just to let you guys know, one of the kickstand is busted, and I tell people that I hold it this way as a tribute to Freddie Mercury.
We are the champions. Okay, great. Go for it. Yeah.
It's also a TCK.
There you go.
Yeah, but one of the kickstand is busted. But yeah, so I can't put it down. So okay, I'll just tell people that I as a tribute to one TCK to another, and I hope I might. Hooray! It works.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, and more power to you, Calvin, and others like you as you do that. And I so appreciate, as you say, advocating for TCKs and giving them a platform on my podcast or on my streaming, whatever you call it, to be able to tell their stories, and that's great. Yeah, and I'm starting to listen more to various podcasts and realizing, wow, this is amazing. So many different experiences. So, at any rate, it's great. Yeah.
Thank you. Though I kind of want to ask something though, because as I mentioned in the past, maybe several times, I didn't stress it quite often. One of the main objective of doing something like this is not only for the current, but also the future generations. Is
Mhm.
because we have different portfolios of stories, and everyone has their own things to say about it, and well, everyone is unique, right, in their own ways. Why do you think, though, that there could be such a miscommunications between generations and culture? And how could this be met? The thing is, I think this is something we discussed for a brief time last time before we actually go on live. Uh, like, let's say when you are talking to your parents, yeah, they will tell you that you guys are actually collaborating to work between the different generation. But it seems to me that there is more of enforcing of what they know, of what has worked for them into you. Maybe other than the fact that, oh, maybe you are more technologically literate. Uh, as a TCK coach, you also coach the younger generations of TCK, right? So how do you feel though this has been encountered before, and what do you feel like could be a remedy to it?
Yeah, well, I do think, yes, that is a significant issue and a concern. And, and so for me, I have three adult children. And so boy, nobody gives you only learn about parenting by actually doing it. You can't take a course and then be this excellent, you get the A in the course and then you're going to be an A plus or an A parent. It just doesn't work that way. It has to come by experience. And so, yeah, I do think it's been complicated by the rapid rise of technology and social media. And there's so many competing voices, Calvin, today. So many competing voices, and but I do think that for me, I'll be honest, for me, and I don't know about what others would say, but for example, you, Calvin, I think you're in your you're still not 30, right? I think you're still in your 20s. Is that correct? Or I'm not allowed to say your age.
I'll turn 28 in 12 days. Don't
You'll
worry,
turn.
I've said my
Okay.
age. I've said my age. I've said my age several times here. I mean, I'm
Okay.
just in denial, but yeah, I'm turning 28.
Okay. Turning 28. Well, I'm 58. So I'm 30 years older than you are. And for me, I don't see so much the challenge of miscommunication between generations. I see the opportunity. The
Right.
opportunity. And to be a come alongside presence that listens well, that does not, just like with cultures, right? Suspend judgment, seek understanding. I also realize that your generation, Calvin. This is why with my kids, I ask for their help on social media. I mean, I'm still new to Instagram, man. I don't have a clue. But you know what? So I get help from them and say, how do I do this? You know. But I realize too that I shouldn't try to compete with Jamey, don't do that, And so instead, just show up in the ways that are authentic and real, and um, I like the term to be childlike, not childish, but childlike, and be authentic and real, and show up in that way. And I think that's going to be attractive, especially to those from the younger generation, because they can sense my authenticity. And then I'm going to really listen to them and show compassion, and they can feel safe then to open up with me. And then there are going to be things that I don't understand. There are going to be things that, like, just technologically, I'm just not quite as fast on that, and it's just like, oh my gosh, that's just too much. I'm inundated with this stuff. But if I suspend judgment, seek understanding, and then realize, I need to be where they are. I need to show up where the younger generation is. It means I got to be alongside. I got to be present. I got to be present, and then just listen and listen and observe. And when you learn a foreign language, do you go in and you become the expert in 1 or 2 days or 3 weeks? No way. You got to spend time to listen, to learn, and to you don't know a lot, and you feel like, just, oh man, this is so embarrassing. You make mistakes, but guess what? You keep at it, you keep at it, you keep at it. And the law of the farm is you will reap what you sow. And if you sow consistency and faithfulness, and I think this is true in communication between generations, and this is my longing and my desire, and guess what? they will feel like, okay, he's a safe place for me to share and talk, and then we can collaborate together across generations to produce something that's even better than if just one generation did it. You know what I'm saying? So together, we can tackle some concerns and issues in our world in a way that's going to be um, far better and more impactful and more compelling than if we just kind of ignored each other or didn't want to pay attention to each other. So that doesn't mean that there's not going to be challenges, Calvin, especially for you as a younger person, feeling sometimes the pressure from those who are the elders. But just be consistent, be consistent. And yeah, there's going to be differences too. There's cultures that are more individualistic. There are cultures that are more community oriented with a hierarchy of relationships, that are very important. You know that, right?
Yeah.
And so here's what I like to say also to young people. Family is for a lifetime. And even if you're young and you feel like, they don't get it, I'll say, you know what? Think 30 years down the road, think 40 years down the road. Family is for a lifetime. And so finding out ways to show honor where honor is due, even while you also continue to say, well, I've got some dreams and visions that I want to explore. Find the ones that are going to help you do that. That's what I say also to those who are younger. And even while you show honor to those who are older and especially your family.
Yeah, just to add on to that, maybe after 10, 20 years down the road, then you'll be like, wow, my kids will say, you don't understand me. And you'll be like, oh,
Exactly.
that's what the exact same thing I said to your grandfather. Oh, no.
Exactly. And so learn those lessons now, so that when you later on, you look and say, well, you know what, I'm going to have my kids. I'm going to have to do the same thing. I have to suspend judgment, seek understanding, learn their stories, and be a safe place for them to share with me.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. It's actually most beneficial. I actually appreciate what you said about that. The thing is that a lot of TCKs tend to, while they would usually, maybe for myself, I actually grow up since I was like around 11 years old overseas on my own. I do have my family members there, but the thing is, it doesn't replace the position that a parent's supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of TCKs actually, I know that a whole lot of them, since the time in their college, since before their college days, they've been living in boarding home away from their parents for quite a certain duration of time. This resulted in them actually having communication issue. It's because they are exposed to a certain kind of lifestyle. They are nurtured by it. They grow up with it because they see the positive and the negative aspects of it. And then the thing is that when they are reacquainted back to their supposed passport culture, it became an entirely different kind of circumstances. It's because your parents would have a certain expectation, or maybe they would have already have an idea. But the thing is that you have a different approach to certain things, and it's not anything negative. It's because sometimes you may have a different approach, but you may lead to a same beautiful destination.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this is something worth to take note of. And I mean, it's easier if your parents are TCKs too, because they've been there. Maybe like what you mentioned with regards to technology wise, maybe there could be one or two mishaps. But the thing is that you get where they're from, because I recall your three kids are also TCKs, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I'm a TCK. Actually, my mom too. My mom is a TCK, my mother. And what does that make my kids? Third generation TCKs.
Third generation.
Yeah.
Yeah, third
So
generation TCKs.
yeah. But if we can do this well, Calvin, and show mutuality, and remember, I love those words, reciprocity and mutuality across generations as well. I think we will. Can we use the word create something,
Yeah.
or collaborate together to create something that's going to be far richer, more sustainable, and more compelling and more helpful? So I want to do that. That's why I want to listen and learn also from those who are younger. and not just assume that I know what they should be thinking, or what they are thinking and what they should be doing. I really need to learn, and especially in today's world. I don't know if you've heard the acronym VUCA, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. Today's world, especially because there's so much change happening and it's happening at an accelerated pace, we have so many adaptive challenges. Adaptive challenges are challenges that we've never quite faced these before. And so what you have to do with adaptive challenges, you have to constantly be in a learning posture. And you have to collaborate. The world is too complex now for the one man or one woman leadership style. We've got to collaborate. We've got to collaborate across cultures and across generations, because of the pace of change is happening too quickly, and the challenges are too complex. That any one person with some brilliant idea, you may have a great idea, and then 2 years from now, it's just completely like the next generation of technology just completely squashed that, or the whatever. So you always having to think.
The Nokia experience.
Yeah, there you go. So, at any rate, that's why we need each other, and we need each other across cultures. We need each other across generations.
Okay. So, with regards to the current pandemic, one of the unique trends that has risen is remote working. One of the unique stuff I know nowadays is a job as a virtual assistant. So somebody could be helping somebody who is in a more developed country, maybe. Typically, I would observe that this is in entrepreneurs. So because of exchange rate, you are able to pay at a lower rate in a sense.
Yes.
But at the same time, of course, you are able to diverse your work. You're able to outsource it to somebody who, as long as they are able to communicate with you, I think it works well. So the thing is that how do you feel though, with TCK and maybe with your personal experience? How will you educate this group on how do you feel their workflow could be much more efficient? So let's say we have something related to maybe your VA is in Indonesia and you are living maybe in a country which has a more individualistic mindset. Maybe we can use US, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
So for one thing is that one of the best part about Indonesia is I always feel it's also one of its double edge is because there's certain adherence to respect and age in a hierarchy. However, the thing is that nowadays there's also those with the mindset that because I'm much more capable than this guy, regardless of whether he has been in this company for 10 years, shouldn't you prioritize me at the very top? So how would your experience though would be creating this more maybe multicultural acceptance on the workflow on the economy?
Yeah, that's a great question, especially now, right? Because I know people. I have family members who have businesses where it's outsourced some of their jobs, to people in different countries. So certainly, cultural awareness, understanding different cultural values is important. But I think too, also, Calvin, is the research on CQ, they call it cultural intelligence. There's not just it tends to people think about cultural intelligence as mainly about knowing the differences between different value orientations, but there's other parts of CQ too, and it starts with CQ drive, what they call CQ drive, which is your motivation and your desire. So sometimes bringing into a company, and let's say increasingly with work stuff happening on the internet, and requiring employees, diversity training is a big thing nowadays, right? But just because the employee goes through diversity training doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to get it, because they may not have even. It's like, this is just a politically correct thing that I need to do, and they have no desire. Their CQ drive isn't there.
Correct.
So here's where I think stories come in. See, Calvin, and so podcasts like this, if people can instead of like a course or being taught what to do or told what to do, and they push back, okay, I'll do that because I'm supposed to and I'm getting paid to do that. But if we can somehow bring it in an indirect way through the sharing of stories, through the sharing of different perspectives, through showing how actually different perspectives, like I said earlier, will help us in our company to produce a better product.
Yep.
And a more competitive and compelling, product. I love that term, compelling. So, and that is required, especially in today's era, where we're like I said earlier, the complexity and the fast changing nature of things requires that no one person has it all. No one culture, no one perspective can really get it, nail it down. So we need each other. So yes, teaching cultural awareness will help, but I think we really need to deal with the motivations. One thing too that you're seeing too, Calvin, now across the globe, people are pushing back against globalization, and they're afraid. I think there's a lot of fear, and so they want to retreat to their own tribe.
Safe haven. I
Yeah,
think it's about their safe
yeah.
haven. Yeah.
Yeah, they want to retreat, and so I think more than ever, we need people who can be bridge builders between cultures and generations too. So
Okay. Yeah. I love that. I love that. Yeah. I think that's the importance of stories, is because you get to learn that there's actually more similarity as compared to differences, I guess.
yes, and I think that if we see stories more than just like like a talk to explain, well, these people are like that. Through stories, there's something compelling. There's something that draws you in. There's something that's human. You humanize, and you normalize, people that are different, because you realize, oh my gosh, like I said earlier, oh, you mean your mother also, you know, you were worried about her because she was sick, and then or whatever, you realize, wow, there's a lot in common that we have that come out through the medium of story. It's an indirect way, but it's kind of seeps into your understanding of, can we use that term? I guess seeps in, but helps you understand, wow, there's a lot that's similar between us. And we don't have to just focus on the differences and then react to each other and then push back against each other.
Correct. All right. I actually have two final questions for you.
Okay.
So one is going to be quite fun. So per se, I'm giving you the capability of creating something. It can be a book, a television program, or even anything that you wish at that time was available during your time, in order to give you a sense of relatability or education, that, oh, wow, I'm a TCK. Okay, I'm not an outcast. This is actually something that is normal. It normalizes it. It generalizes it, though, in a sense. So, what would you create?
You mean now, or are you talking about when I was younger?
You can say both. You can say
Okay.
now or back then.
Yeah, maybe when I was younger, I mean, I guess when I was out in Indonesia and Malaysia, I just didn't necessarily think about it so much, because I'm, with other TCKs. But, when I was back in my home culture, um, maybe feeling a little bit out of place, um, and some of the stuff that I shared earlier. That's a great question. I'm not sure what I would have done back then. I think, um, having advocates,
Yeah,
yeah, back then maybe having advocates who could invite you in and not kind of showcase you as the different person. Oh, this is Jamey, who lives in Indonesia now. We're going to hear from him and his family, blah blah. And you feel sort of different. But instead, if you had an advocate who made you feel like you're just one of us now, you have a, so that would be, I think, important. Today, I'll tell you what I think I love, Calvin, and that is what I'm doing is coaching. So
yeah,
I tend to not necessarily aspire to going viral and having a big thing. Some people do, and they have that impact in that way. That's wonderful. I
Yep.
think I prefer now to really focus on small groups and one-on-one. And if I can change, and help to change that one person, then I'm going to impact whoever that person impacts and whoever that person impacts, and it can snowball. So that's my desire now, is to really do that well and have the doors open increasingly to be able to do that. That's what I love to do. So help others grow courage, gain clarity, and keep moving, as my my tagline says.
Yep. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Okay, so this is gonna be your last question, Jamie.
Okay,
So,
great.
what do you feel has been the blessing, and to balance it out, this is not my word, it's actually, but a friend of mine actually suggested it, a curse as a TCK.
Yeah.
And also, through everything that you are doing now, whether it's through your coaching or even any kind of resources that you maybe will be coming up in the future, what do you hope to impart to the next generations of TCKs, or even those who at the present could be younger than you?
Okay, so the blessing, I think, of my growing up as a TCK would be, we've mentioned this word a lot, the stories.
Yep.
Getting to hear the stories of others, and then increasing my awareness of differences. Difference, just because it's different doesn't mean it's wrong. In fact, we can enrich, and coming back to that imagery of the tapestry or the mosaic, it's rich and colorful, and so that's been a blessing. I don't like to use the word curse, yes, but I understand. It's things that have been, I think perhaps for me, similar to the story of Dr. Ruth Van Recken, I think going in a way to boarding school and being away from my family, my parents and my siblings for a lot of a good amount of my growing up, that was difficult. And it was later in my 30s that I began to really process through that. So that was something that was challenging for me. And then the last part was what I'm going to do, what I hope for to be able to give. I love to come alongside others, and especially those who are younger, and especially those who are TCKs, because I'm a TCK and I'm the parent of TCKs, and to be able to help them grow in their understanding of their own identity, have a sense of rootedness and a belonging that may not necessarily be attached to any specific location, but because they understand who they are and how they best show up in this world. And I think a guy like you, Calvin, and I think see what you've done, amazing. This is episode number 75, and I think a year and a half. And I was like, wow. And I just want to be in one who encourages that kind of passion and vision, but then also helping them to ground in relationships that will help to sustain them for a lifetime.
Yep.
And so that's how I think I best operate, and how I best want to communicate and help the next generation, is being that person who's a come alongside presence, to listen well, to show compassion, to draw them out, and to watch them flourish and be fruitful.
All right. Okay, that's all the questions that I have. So before I end it, I need to give some shout outs for the people who leave a comment. So first off, Dr. Roberta Robinson, how are you, Doc? Happy New Year. And along with that, we actually need to shout out to Mr. Pujitan, Miss Tia Andriani, Mr. Onedi, and my good buddy, Mr. Ben Vogel. How are you, bud? All right. So that is actually all the questions that I had. And also, I need to thank all those who are tuning into the show. So the replay will be available later on Instagram. And along with that, last but definitely not the least, I need to thank Jamie for coming here today. It should be 9 p.m. on your time, right?
Just about.
Okay. Yeah, thank you so much. Hope you enjoy yourself here.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I have enjoyed myself. It's been an honor to be on your show. on
You're
your
most
talk.
welcome.
Yeah, thanks.
All right. And along with that, for those of you who could be interested to try out something like what I'm doing, which is a live stream podcast, there's a $10 credit for you from StreamYard, which is located at the description box. I know you guys can't travel yet nowadays, but there's also an Airbnb travel credit located at the description box. And if you want to create something which is like a graphic, or you guys are interested to try out something that is new, you can try out at Canva credit. So along with that, yeah. Other than that, I don't have anything else. If you do need to reach out to Jamey, please. There's also some of his description box, which is his social links, such as his website and his Instagram. If you do need to reach out to him, please do so. But
Yeah.
please indicate that you know him from my show or even some other means, because this is his own personal privacy. Yeah. So other than that, this is I think this is all that I have. So thank you so much for tuning in to Global Citizens episode 75, supporting TCKs to live wholeheartedly and boldly. So with that, I'm going to show you guys my new hand sign because it looked like a TCK. TCK. So this is how I will end my show nowadays. So take care.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks.